In this episode, we'll go over how to decode a 3 or 4 dial combination lock that has false gates. We'll be using this Ace branded brass lock and this master lock as examples, but this will work with any similarly constructed lock. Hey folks, welcome to Pugs Picks Locks. If you're new here, feel free to click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you'll always be notified when I release new content like this. And if you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, click that like button, and leave a comment or question down below. Did I get something wrong? Is there something I could do better, do differently? Please let me know. I want to learn from all of you to continue to grow my knowledge and skill set and provide you with better and better content. Also, leave a comment if there's a specific topic that you'd like to have covered. Okay, let's start out with the shout out of the week. This week, the shout out goes to Southpaw Pete's Picking, who currently has 189 subscribers as I'm filming. First, I'm always going to spread the left-handed love and give my fellow Southpaws a spotlight, but more importantly, he does some great picking on his challenge as well as magic. That's a combination that goes as far back as Houdini, who inspired my lockpicking obsession when I was a kid. If you're not subscribed to his channel already, hop on over and let's get him past that 200 mark. Alright, let's dive into this week's video. In order to understand how to decode this type of lock, we need to understand how they work. So on the dial side of the lock, the shackle extends all the way down through the dials, and it has lugs like the teeth of a comb on the shackle itself, on the shaft of the shackle, so that when the dial is aligned properly, there is a gate cut in the dial that allows the lug to pass through if we have it on the right number. So with cheap versions of the lock, you can simply pull on the shackle and then turn the dials until you feel the gate, you feel the lug pass into the gate, and that'll usually be accompanied with just a tiny bit of shackle movement. The better made versions of this style of lock, however, like these, both of these, will have false gates in which the gate is cut into the dial but not all the way through. So in addition to the actual true gate, when you turn the dial, you may fall into a false gate like this, making that method of applying pressure of tension on the shackle, pulling on the shackle, and feeling for it to fall into the gate, making that method more difficult, if not impossible. So what you see on the screen is a very simplified diagram of how true and false gates look. So keep in mind that there are different variations for different models, different manufacturers, and so on. So if you gut a few of these, you'll find the details of the mechanisms may differ, but they are all variations on this basic theme. So the good news is that regardless of the variation, the true gates feel different from the false gates, because the true gates have to be cut all the way through. So we can feel for this difference. So if this lock is both locks are currently set to all zeros as a combination, right? So if I put, I'll put the first and the last dial on 9. So, and then if I pull on the shackle, I'm pulling with my index finger here. If I pull on the shackle, we can see how much movement the first dial has. It's in a false gate. If I then move it back to 0 and pull on the shackle and do the same thing, you can see how much freer that dial is moving, how much more movement we're getting out of it. So that's the difference. So let me put the second on. Okay, so false. So, yep. Let's put this one in a false gate. So we'll put that on 9 also. So right now, dials 2 and 3 here are in a false gate, and the first dial is in the true gate. So here's how much the false gate is moving, and there's a little bit of friction to it. And here's how much the true gate is moving. So to demonstrate this, I am going to, let's go back to all zeros. For this lock, if I open up the shackle, do a quarter turn, push in, it's now in recoding mode. So I'm going to cover it up with a bit of cloth here, with a microfiber towel. And we're going to just scramble the dials. I'm turning randomly in multiple directions. Okay, now I'm going to make sure that they're all lined up on a number. And I'm going to put the shackle back, pull it out, close it up, and now I'm going to scramble the dials once again. Okay, that should be good enough. So now I'm going to put, the line isn't that important. I'm just going to line it up so that I'm looking at all zeros. And I do this so I know that when I've made a full rotation of the dial. And now I'm simply going to start feeling for the true gate. So not a lot of movement and a little bit of friction. So I'm going to increment it by 1, apply pressure, same thing, increment it by 1, put a little pressure, same thing, increment it by 1, apply pressure. That feels a little different. So what's facing up towards, I was in between numbers, sorry. So there's, okay, increment it by 1, increment it by 1. Okay, that with the 5 facing me is definitely a true gate. So now I'm going to move on to the next dial and just do the same process. Keep incrementing it by 1, applying pressure, testing the dial over and over again. I'm just feeling for that true gate. And there we go. So our first two numbers are the 5 and the 8 facing me. If we look at the line on the dial, that's a 2 and a 5. And so that last dial, we don't even have to feel for the gate. We can just turn it, increment it by 1, pull on the shackle, increment it by 1, pull on the shackle until we hit the correct one. And there we go, we have her open. So it's a matter of just being able to feel for the differences between the true and the false gate. So our combination ended up being 2, 5, 2. If we look at it from that perspective, I always look at the numbers that are facing me as I'm pulling at it. But that's our combination, is 2, 5, 2 on this one. Now, this lock is older. This Ace branded brass padlock is older. You can see it doesn't, it's grittier, and there's probably some corrosion inside of it. And that actually affects things a great deal. The dials, you can hear that there's a little bit of a squeak to them. There's just more friction in general with this lock. And as you're turning the dial, you're not always feeling exactly where the numbers are, instead of clicking solidly into place. So this lock being older and more worn is going to affect how it feels. This lock always takes longer to decode. It sometimes takes several passes through each dial to get the combination to really be able to tell the difference. I have to vary the tension, how hard I'm pulling on it. So if this ends up taking a super long time, I'm going to put a timer on the screen and I will speed up the footage, but leave the timer up so you can see how long it actually takes. Okay, so I am going to put this in recoding mode for this one. Instead of a quarter turn, it's a half turn. Push in, and now we're in recoding mode. I'm going to cover it with our microfiber towel. I don't know why I'm saying microfiber. It's not important what type of material it is. And we're going to scramble it up. Sometimes I'm turning one dial, sometimes I'm turning two, sometimes I'm turning three. So I'm just doing as good a job scrambling this as I possibly can. Okay, and now I'm going to try to make sure it's on a number, that each dial is on a number. I'm going to pull the shackle back out, turn it, put it back in, lock it up, and now I'm going to scramble the dials once more. So, like I said, this this lock does not have that same ease of movement, easily discernible difference between the true and the false gates, because it's older, well used, worn, corroded, whatever. I'm actually going to pull out a carabiner so that I can, if I really need to pull on the shackle hard, let's turn that around. If I really need to pull on the shackle hard, I have a little bit more of a grip to do it. I'm going to set this so the zeros are facing me. Okay. And like I said, I'll speed up the footage if this ends up taking a really long time. Generally, before I can start feeling the true and the false gates in this lock, feeling the true gates in this lock, one of them I have to accidentally, on purpose, end up in a true gate with one dial, and then the other dials start to give better feedback. So there we go. Okay, that took a lot of effort. And our combination ended up being 1337. And you can see how much I had to fight this lock to get that open. But by feeling for the true and the false gates. And so now that we're here, let's just see. So if I put this one, so we're locked back up, 1337. Okay. We'll put this one in a false gate, and the first one is in a true gate. And you see how little friction, and the second one is in a false gate. But this one, the third dial, is also in a true gate, but you can see that it's not moving as freely. But if I put that one, the second dial, so that the first and second dials are both in a true gate, now you can see how much freer it moves. So this lock is just so worn. and corroded, well used. You can hear how squeaky and everything it is. It's just puts up much more of a fight. Okay, so hopefully, in spite of how long that took, you've learned a bit about how these locks work and how to decode them, even if they're false gates, and even if it's an old lock that the dials don't move as freely anymore and there's more friction, and the difference between the true and the false gates isn't as noticeable, the feedback you get from them. So hopefully this helps. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, remember to drop a like and leave a comment or a question below. If you're new here, subscribe and ring the notification bell for more content like this. Until the next video, happy picking y'all.